It's the 4th of January already. Good evening and welcome as I start yet another journey. This is my 52nd year in the media. 52 years, yes. And we thank God for that. Right, welcome. This is Frank on Camnet. Our new slot will be starting this time at 17 hours up to 18:30. Wherever you are in the world, in Africa, and of course Zambia, welcome to the new year and welcome to the first program in 2022. The 12th of August 2021 ushered in the European Day government at the hands of the PF government. Since then, the president of PF, Dr. Edgar Lungu, has stepped down as party president of PF. Currently, we have acting president, Mr. Given LUBINDA, who is embarked on, together with other leaders, the task of rebranding PF. Mr. LUBINDA is my guest on this new slot of Frank on Camnet. Later on in the program, viewers will be allowed to either call in or text in your contributions. Welcome, Happy New Year. You're my first guest on this new slot. How are you?
Thank you. I'm very well, thank you.
Excellent.
Are you vaccinated like me?
Yes, I am. I'm actually going for the booster tomorrow.
Very well. So I'm safe and you're safe?
You're very safe. You can actually take it off.
Thank you.
You're very, very safe.
Thank you.
Welcome to this show.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and especially it's the first show in the year 2022.
Absolutely. As I start my 52nd year in the media.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
That's not a mean achievement.
Not at all.
And also,
it's been a long journey.
Happy 2022.
Thank you.
And for the viewers and for all citizens, we wish all citizens a prosperous 2022.
Excellent. First and foremost, thank you so much. First and foremost, how's the former president? And I'm sure you've been, touching base, with him. How is he doing?
Yes, I'm in regular touch with him. He's doing very well. He took a break over Christmas. I'm not sure where he went, but he was just out of town for some time. And I met him when he came back. The last time I saw him, he was doing extremely well.
Okay.
I haven't spoken to him in the last week or so, but the last time I spoke to him, he was doing very well.
Have you had an opportunity just to sit and discuss and reflect on what happened on the 12th of August with him?
We've done that quite often. There are many times when we sit and reflect on what hit us and what led us to where we are now. We've had sometimes very serious, very somber discussions, but also sometimes very lively discussions. So it has been a mix of emotions, very hard emotions, but also some jovial moments.
Absolutely.
We looked back and said, well, things could have been done better. We had some lapses, which if we had an opportunity to go back, would do differently. He once cracked a joke. He told me that his family members had gone to visit him, and one of them, after having taken a few drinks, gathered courage and asked, Mr. President, if you were to go back in your political career, in your presidential history, what would you do different? And he said, I would do everything the same way that I did, because I would have also not have been any experience. So now, if I was to go forward, I would do things differently. So we sometimes laugh about this.
A lot of people didn't know exactly, who he was. I mean, you've been very close, to him. How would you describe him? What kind of a person and president was he?
Extremely slow to anger. Very, very slow to anger, and some people have taken that to mean weakness. I read an article in one of the tabloids where some person was saying he will remember him as a weak president. He is very slow to anger, very patient. He listens. He's a terrific listener. Sometimes sitting in his cabinet meetings, you'd hear people going round in circles, and he is patient, he's listening. And those who are not as patient as he is would actually be wondering and stamping their feet. Why don't we make progress? Why don't we move on? That's the kind of person he is. Also very forgiving, I should say. I'll be amiss if I don't also indicate the fact that he's a very forgiving person. He's very, very forgiving. People can wrong him, and once they go to him and apologize, for him it's back to normal life as usual. As a rider, to that, Mr. LUBINDA, was he perhaps too tolerant, to some of the people who let him down, who went astray? I don't think I can say no to that. Yeah. He was extremely tolerant, that some of the things that we, the people around him, did, others wouldn't have tolerated. And maybe the outcome would have been different. But I have to state that he indeed was so tolerant that there were some things that happened, which he allowed to happen, which other people wouldn't have tolerated at all. What did you learn from him that perhaps would stand you in good stead, going forward as one of the leaders of PF? I learned patience from him. I learned patience. However, I also learned that sometimes there comes a time when one has to fight to be a man. You know the song? Yeah. Yeah. Kenny Rogers put it very well. Sometimes you have to fight to be a man. And I think that President Edgar Chagwa Lungu missed opportunities to fight when his territory was invaded. When people did things which did not stand well for him and his political career. I will cite examples. When there was a rampant show of hooliganism amongst our members, you'd have expected, and in retrospect, you'd have wanted him to crack the whip. But for him, his style was, let's talk to them, let's calm them and let them learn. But unfortunately, life is not that easy, and time is not the best ally in matters like this. Obviously, by the time people start to realize that he wanted them to reform, it was too late. The Zambian people had made their decisions, they had made their mind that the rampant hooliganism in the party had become the order of the day and was destructive to the party. So that is something that I learned from him, that sometimes you really have to fight when you're a man. You're not acting in a president. I know you fairly well, and perhaps even very well. In the past, you've been accused of being power hungry, of wanting to be president. I know you didn't want you didn't come in the open, that you wanted to be vice president, and now acting president. First, what is your reaction to some of the people who accused you that you're power hungry too? What is your reaction that you are appointed vice president and then appointed president when you didn't actually come out in the open, that you actually wanted, either of these positions? Thank you. Thank you for your kind words. I did aspire for presidency after the demise of President Michael Chilufi Sata. And those who watched that conference will remember how I withdrew my candidature. I withdrew it because I felt that it was chaotic. And I did address the delegates to the second conference. Remember, there were two conferences. Yeah. I did address delegates to the conference. And in my address to them, I indicated that I would not like to be associated with any form of hooliganism and disorder. And if disorder is what is going to project me to be a president, then I'd rather not be. And that's how I withdrew. And I said that time will vindicate me. Now, those who are criticizing me for this position, first, they may little understand that I wasn't even excited about it. Yeah. I wasn't excited about the position, and I actually did ask the appointing authority, president of the political party at that time, I asked him, I said, sir, why now? Why are you giving me the onerous task of being vice president of a political party that has just lost power? Huh? When a party loses power, you expect it to disintegrate. You didn't find me worthy to be vice president.
Absolutely.
When you were running government.
Yeah.
But why now? And he was very candid. He said, my brother, do you really think I should hand over the party to somebody who is weak, somebody who may not galvanize us? And he said to me, I think that for the time being, you're the best placed to bring all of us together so that we can forge ahead as a political party. That is the basis on which I accepted the challenge. I took it as a challenge and not as a pleasure. To be vice president of a political party, especially in opposition, means a lot because everything points towards you. If it succeeds, well done for everybody. In the event of failure, you are left alone. You are left to hang on your own. So I took it up as a challenge, and I took it up because I also have every confidence in my colleagues. I looked around and asked my question, who is around to assist? And I saw that there is a good team that I can rely on, a team that can work together with me to galvanize the party, to make it ready for the next extraordinary conference where the party itself shall elect the next president. I also have to state, and you are right, I don't think that there is anybody in the party or even outside the party who can say they ever heard me aspiring to lead this political party. The statement that I made, some people actually misunderstood me and used it to lash at me when I said, I wouldn't like to be a president of a disorganized political party. I stand by that. I wouldn't like today to become president of the Patriotic Front before the party is reorganized, before the party shows that indeed we are united. Today, if you open Facebook, you hear all sorts of criticism, all sorts of innuendo, all sorts of comments about this one and that one. And my role now is to try and bring all these parties together so that we go into the conference as one united party. And indeed, if the party is strong, then it is immaterial what position I hold. Because then I'll belong to a strong entity. And every member of a strong entity feels the sense of belonging. Whereas to belong to a political party, even at the helm of that political party, when it is disorganized, you still be a lonely person anyway. So I would rather be an ordinary member of a strong party than be a president of a weak party. That is my position.
I'll ask you to prong in a question. One, how have your colleagues, in the leadership, responded to appointment as acting president? Two, how much in control are you? I say this because from where we sit, from where people stand, it's like there's still a lot of people who are in different positions, perhaps even positioning themselves for future leadership to take over, this party. Why do I say this? There's been a lot of statements from, well, let me be frank, Ambassador Mwamba, he's been all over, Honorable Munduvile, so many people making, statements like you are not in control. Could you clarify this?
The first part of your question, what was the reaction? As can be expected, if the Son of God himself, when he came to save us, quite a lot of people, especially in his own home area, did not accept him. What about a mortal human being like me? I wouldn't be surprised that there are some people who think I am not suited to be vice president of the party. I wouldn't be surprised. There are some people there who would have wanted themselves to be vice president, or would have wanted their colleagues, their allies, to be vice president. So I'm not worried about that. I'm comfortable by the realization that the majority of people acknowledge that I'm vice president, and I didn't put myself there. I was actually appointed, and appointed using the constitution. Am I in control of the party? Yes, I am in control of the party. At least no programs take place in the party without my approval. But I cannot dare say I'm in control of the individuals who constitute the party, because this is a democratic party, and I cannot possibly tell people what to do and what not to do. I cannot tell people not to show their ambitions. Yes, some people have come out in the open. They want to contest the presidency. Some of them are doing it because they feel there's nobody except themselves who are suitably qualified to be presidents. Others may be thinking, well, if I don't contest, maybe Lubinda will contest. So let me show my interest now, so that I curtail Lubinda's opportunity or Lubinda's ideas to become president. But others also feel they're the ones that have the greatest ideas to propel this party to greater heights. There are various reasons, and I certainly cannot stop them. I would actually like to encourage people to build these ambitions. The only thing that I appeal to everyone who's aspiring, not only for the presidency, but for any positions in the party, is that the aspirations must be lower priority than growing the party. If all of us can concentrate on strengthening the party, then we'll be doing good for the party. If we shall, for instance, go to Kabwata, where there's a by-election, and instead of campaigning for Clement Tembo and campaigning for the party, we go and start meeting the officials in the party and endearing ourselves to the people and saying, when the conference comes, elect me as president. Then you're not building the party, you're destroying the party. Because what you don't want to do is to go to the conference with factions. You want to go to the conference, all of you as a united party, and saying, these people are the ones who have aspired, these people are the ones who qualify in accordance with the constitution, these are the people who have been shortlisted by the National Council, and these are the candidates. And let the people at the conference exercise their will to decide which one of the individuals shall lead us as a political party. I would like to appeal to everybody that we must go out of that conference even more united than would be going into it. If we do anything less than that, I'm afraid that we'll be creating despondency in the party and therefore weakening the most important and major opposition political party in Zambia. And once we do that, you and me, Ambassador Frank, can literally guess what will happen to Zambia's democracy. If the Patriotic Front collapses and it takes a long time for another political party to emerge, then you'll have a one-party state in Zambia. And I don't think that it's in the interest of anyone. So it is in the interest of every Zambian that we in the Patriotic Front hold together. And personal interests must be subservient to party interests, which in this case represent national interests.
I'll be getting back to that issue of perceived one-party state. But before I proceed, I want to ask you, for the sake of our viewers, who exactly are you? Who is given Lubinda? What do you stand for?
I think that those who have been following my politics, a history which is shorter than your career as a broadcaster, it's only 21 years. People have known me to be a servant leader. For me to have been re-elected a resounding 4 times in Kabwata constituency, and bearing in mind that Kabwata constituency is a cosmopolitan constituency, it is not a constituency where people would be urged to vote simply because of tribe or religion, or that is a very diverse constituency. The reason I think I've been elected 4 times is because I have proven to the people that I relate to the grassroots very, very well. I present myself to the people as a person who is listening and who is focused on delivering for the benefit of the people. That's who I am. I'm a Democrat, true Democrat. I run various committees at Parliament as chairperson of those committees, and I have not held on to those positions forever. Even if people wanted me to continue, I would pass on the baton and say, you know, time has come. You may recall, and some of your viewers may recall, that I was chairman for the African Parliamentarians Network Against Corruption. And even when I was giving up the chairmanship, members were saying, please, come back, keep on. But I said, time has come, somebody else must take over. And this is exactly what I did also for Kabota. You may recall that even against the desire of some of my colleagues in the Central Committee, I said, you know, to be elected 4 times is a very humbling thing. And I said to myself and said to family, said to friends, I cannot possibly go back into Kabota. Let me allow somebody else to take over. Now, as we're deciding on the candidate for the by-election in Kabota, there are some of my colleagues who came to me. You know, some people even went to my family, they went to my family members. Some people went to my colleagues in the party. Some people went to President Edgar Lungu and said, please convince this guy, let him run again. But I said, no, I'm a true Democrat. I've run my race as Member of Parliament for Kabota constituency. Let somebody else continue. I'm a devoted Christian. I go to church almost every Sunday. When I miss Mass, I feel that I've not done my service, my duty to God. I'm a God-fearing person. I'm a family man, a grandfather. And over these years, I've been dabbling my politics with being a small businessman. Fortunately, even without the political emoluments, I think that I can still manage to maintain family.
As a Christian, a devout Christian, how do you reconcile the bad things that go on in politics, corruption, you know, violence? How do you reconcile that?
I have done the best I could to avoid being embroiled in such vices. I have done my level best. I have not at all abused my office for personal gain. None whatsoever. There are many occasions when people would come and offer this and offer the other for a government contract, or I would say, not with me. I would want to execute my functions diligently. And this is because of my Christian background. Regarding violence, I think that people who have been associated with me know that I'm a very violent, free person. Yes, I do get angry. And yes, sometimes I do use hard words, but never do I use words that demean or words that would attract a fight. I have been a victim of violence myself. But I've never reacted. I've never ever reacted. During the campaign in Chilanga, for the by-election in Chilanga, one member of parliament phoned me and threatened to shoot me. He accused me of stuffing ballot papers. He accused me of that and threatened to shoot me. You know, and I spoke to him and said, are you sure you want to shoot me for this? Yes, I'm going to shoot you. I think that others would have said, come, let's meet. This is going to be a fist fight or a gunfight. Instead, I went to the police and said, please, can you restrain him from making these threats? When I was attacked in Kabota, I had an armed ADC besides me. He pulled out his revolver and I restrained him. I said, please don't. Don't even fire a warning shot. Instead, let's run. Let's walk out of this place. Later on, when the young man was convicted, I couldn't stand it. I had sent somebody to prison for slapping me. The family was going to suffer. I went and knelt down before the president and said, sir, please, I'm sure that the young man has learnt his lesson. And as a matter of fact, the only reason why I pursued that matter to its logical conclusion was because there were some people who were actually coming around and saying, I deserve to be beaten, and this person was not the right person who had beaten me, and so on and so forth. And this person was innocent. I was making up. I had to protect my integrity by making sure that the court makes its own finding. That's the reason, the only reason why I took the matter right up to the end. But after the young man was convicted, I broke down.
Yeah.
I went to visit him when he was at Lusaka Remand Prison. I couldn't hold back tears. I saw this young man and he was telling me how he was suffering, how he had an ailment and how his family was suffering. And I promised him, I said, I would at least go and appeal to the president. And I'm very fortunate that His Excellency kindly listened and pardoned the young man. So that's the kind of person I am.
Now that the law hasn't, followed you, when you were in government, I mean, your colleagues, some of your colleagues really lived beyond their means, and some of them are being investigated, today. Didn't you see it? Didn't cross your mind that what are they doing that I cannot do? Where they're getting, all the monies, all the luxuries, the vehicles they're driving, the amazing houses they're living in. Didn't you see that?
All of us politicians have our own different backgrounds. We have our own different histories. And it is very difficult for a person to just make assumption that because this person is living better than I, therefore, they're being involved in illicit activities. It's very difficult. But truth be told, I did lament, and I still lament, the exposure of wealth, where members of the party, and not only in high-ranking members, but even members in the lower levels of the party, showing off their wealth and so on and so forth, going to filling stations to tank up, and they are leaving money, more money than they used to buy fuel. They are leaving to cadres and so on. For me, I made a comment on this. I said, this is immoral. I said it is immoral because I don't think that we should turn citizens into beggars. That when they see me on the street, they come with a begging bowl. Boss, Faza, give me money, Faza. I thought that is not the best way of conducting oneself, especially in an office of elective representative office. So I did talk about such things, but honestly, I did not delve into questioning where are they getting the money from because of the fact that we're from different backgrounds. Some of the people go into politics after they've already accumulated wealth, they've had successful businesses and so on and so forth, and they go into politics not because they're going to earn a living, but purely because they've got what they need and they're just going there to save. So I wouldn't have gone into questioning that at all.
As a rider, to that, some of your colleagues, accusing this government, that picking on, certain people in the party. I mean, these are perceived, cases. Do you subscribe to that, that the government is handpicking certain people in your party, to go for?
I have spoken about this, Ambassador Frank. I've said, when the people that are being picked up for criminal investigations happen to be only from one political party, when you also know others from other political parties who may have also misconducted themselves, it becomes an obvious witch hunt. A case in point, from 2015, there are many cases of violence involving members of other political parties, but none of them has been picked up. It has only been members of the Patriotic Front. I can cite the example of Narikwanda. During the run-up to the 2021 August 12th elections, a PF member was shot at, killed in Narikwanda. The matter was reported to the police. The culprits are known, but those culprits are walking the streets free. And yet, a person who is alleged to have used the firearm and did not kill anybody in the 2017 by-election in Sesheke is being tried. So you ask, why is this? You know? And this is what leads one to the conclusion that this is persecution. This is a witch hunt. You know? I did make mention, for instance, the other night that this hunger for revenge is bound to destroy the country. What we should rather develop is a system of avoidance of retribution. Bearing in mind that people do not elect you because you promise that you're going to avenge the wrongs that were done against you. Nobody will vote for you if you said that to them. People will vote for you because you have said to them that I'm going to be better than the former. You know, that's how they vote for you. You're always saying, I shall be better. And in being better, you're also promising the people that I shall not engage in any form of retribution. But if this becomes the norm, then Ambassador Frank, I can assure you that the upcoming generation will shun the business of politics.
There are those, Mr. LUBINDA was saying, this is hypocritical on the part of PF today. This is a party when it was in government, it incarcerated a lot of people, including the president, president. That's one part of the question. Second part of the question is, President Lungu is on record as having said he was going to lock up this president, had he won the elections. I want you to react to that and also clarify the statement that you have reported been made that is becoming or is going to become unattractive for anybody to be president in this country because of the constant lifting of immunity. Shouldn't immunity be lifted if there's a strong case that this president took advantage of his office to do ill things? It's a loaded question, and I want you to move methodically and deal with this question.
The statement that President Edgar Lungu made, for some, was the reason why they didn't vote for him. Yes.
Okay.
I have no doubt in my mind that some of the people listened to that statement where he said, I'm going to lock this person up if I win.
Yeah.
They might have said, this fellow has been locked up already several times. And now you want to subject him to more suffering after you win. So then we'll deny you a vote. Because like I said, no person, no human being likes to see the suffering of another.
Absolutely.
So if you tell them that I'm going to subject this particular individual to suffering, they resent you. So I can safely say that the statement that President Edgar Lungu made may have costed him vote.
Yeah.
Now, yes, there were people who were harmed. I was one of those who was harmed at the hands of PF cadres. Now, should I today, because I'm vice president, go out for all those who I know were involved and hunt them down and punish them? Then what am I doing? Am I building? No. Then I'm regressing.
Right.
Rather, I should say to them, friends, come. It happened, but now that I'm here, we're friends. Let's move on. So that they also learn that their conduct must change. But to go in and say, yes, now that I'm here, I am going to make sure that you also feel the pain that I felt. You're creating a very dangerous trajectory, because the next person will also come and say, oh, by the way, you made that one suffer. It may not have been me who was suffering, but I felt for that one you made suffer. I'll also avenge their suffering. Then you're building a society of anger.
Yeah.
Every one of us have a duty to emulate the Lord. And you remember his last words?
Yeah.
Father, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. Yeah. So yes, those that were injured by the Patriotic Front, all I can say as the Vice President is, I'm aware of these things. But forgive us, for we did not know that is going to actually cost us votes. We didn't even know. The people who are doing that did not realize that this is going to cost us votes. Yeah. I have said many times, I've given a small little example when I'm talking to members of the party, particularly youths. I've said to them, you know, even this seemingly innocent activity where a member of parliament or constituency chairman or provincial chairman or district chairman is joining the road, and the cadres go and stop traffic. Huh? They stop the traffic just to allow this constituency chairman or district chairman or MP to join the road. Yeah. That in itself is wrong. It injures the feelings of people. Why should this one particular individual cause the delay of everybody else? You know, now even such things for me, I wouldn't say, oh yeah, because we did it, therefore it is justified that the UPND also do it. No, the UPND have a duty to present better governance than we did, so that the next government will also become better. That is how society develops. But if we're going to be hanging on to the baggage of history, then I'm afraid we will not develop.
If PF had won, would you have taken it upon yourself to say, you know what, don't do anything against the UPND or any other opposition political parties?
If you look at the party manifesto, we had already indicated in there that time had come for us to cleanse ourselves of that image. We had already planned that we should change this. You know, this is also the reason which President Edgar Lungu gave to me when I asked, sir, why didn't you compose the Central Committee at that same time? And he said to me, you know, had I done that, I wouldn't have allowed myself an opportunity to come and speak to you as a new dispensation. So what he wanted was to cross the Rubicon and now say, now that I've been re-elected, friends, I want a different approach to these things. So we were determined to change. And now that we're in opposition, it even gives us a greater impetus and a greater reason for us to reform.
Still talking about President Lungu, before we talk about your statement of saying it's becoming unattractive, let me leave that and I'll revisit that. Let's talk about the statement that you made that is becoming unattractive, or it's going to be unattractive if we start removing immunity. Could you clarify that?
I made that statement based on the experience we've had so far. The first thing that President Chiluba did upon being sworn in was to investigate Super Ken. He sent people to go and search his house and so on and so forth. He made the world believe that President Kaunda had stashed away millions of dollars. And the whole country rose against President Kaunda. It took the old man 10 long years to regain his dignity. Remember, he was arrested on Christmas Day. Thrown into prison. At the end of it, why was he incarcerated? A lot of Zambians after that realized the poor man was subjected to such inhumane treatment.
Accused of stealing books.
Accused of stealing money and everything. They just found books. And then, after that, as though we hadn't learned the lesson, what happened after Frederick Titus Chiluba ended his 10-year...
Levy removed
his immunity. I was in Parliament then. And I said the last time, and I want to reiterate what I said, I stand up to salute people like my friend Eric Silwamba, the late Chitalo Sampa. When everybody was in the excitement of removing Chiluba's immunity, yes, he's a thief, Chiluba is a thief, remove his immunity. The 2 or 3 of them stood up in Parliament and said they are not going to be part of this. And they walked out. I respect them for that. However, fast forward, what happened to Chiluba?
his immunity is also removed.
Chiluba went to his death.
Spent 10 years in court.
As a sad man.
Yeah.
To date, Chiluba's property has not been given back to his family.
Yeah.
The children are suffering.
Yeah. Until the state is taking over.
The man led this country for 10 years. Yeah. You subject him to such inhumane treatment. Lucky Mwanawasa. Lucky Michael Churufyasata. What happened to RB? The man was in office hardly 3 years. Yeah. I was again part of that parliament which went and said, let us remove his immunity. What did we get out of it? Just humiliation of the old man. Huh? Up to now, some people still laugh and say, his immunity was removed. But what have we gained as a society? Nothing. Yeah. Now, I am not saying that you must give freedom even to those who abuse the law. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is, let us not make this the norm. That whichever president leaves, the successor must come and be encouraged to remove their immunity. If indeed there are grounds, let those grounds be established beforehand. Yeah. And according to the Constitution, it is the president, the sitting president, who should assess and see that indeed there is reason. And they must go to Parliament and present the case. But if we just wake up and tomorrow, because I don't like the president, I post on Facebook, please remove his immunity. On what basis am I calling for the removal of his immunity? You know? And yes, I want to say this. The truth of the matter is that President Hakainde Hichilema will soon be former. Soon he'll be former. Yeah. He'll be lucky if he goes into 2031. Because if the PF organize themselves and do what I'd like them to do, 2026 he becomes former. And I wouldn't like to see that President Hakainde is also subjected to humiliation. Remove his immunity, let us investigate him, and so on and so forth. I don't think that is how we should treat presidents. Now, it starts with presidents. Eventually, it will go down. Right. Then everybody will be affected. Now, tell me, if you, a son of a reverend, a devout Christian, would like that your nephews, your siblings, your children, and so on, go into a career where the rest of their lives, they become hunted in their own country. They are subjected to ridicule for the rest of their lives. Then obviously it will become very unattractive to aspire for presidency or for any political office for that matter. This does not necessarily mean that I would like that thieves are let free. No. Yeah. All I'm saying is please establish a prima facie case first.
Tell me, why is so much animosity among brothers and sisters? Most of them belong to same organizations, institutions like churches, simply because they belong to different political parties, end up hating each other so much that they even start hacking each other. How do you explain that? And this in a country which has been declared a Christian nation. How did we arrive at this?
Ambassador Frank, it's worse than that. I've experienced a situation where members of the same family are in different political parties and violence erupts. Yeah. When this fellow goes back to his home, he gets a phone call that your cousin was actually hacked in that scuffle. And this fellow, wearing a different party shirt, has to go and visit the relative in the hospital. Huh? And the relative says, actually the ones who hacked me were wearing this particular shirt that you're wearing. Dog eat dog, brother kill brother. Now the reason for this for me, Ambassador Frank, is because unfortunately for us Africans, there is no word to substitute opposition. The words to substitute opposition is kukangana. Yeah. Connotes enmity. Which shouldn't be the case. You may belong to a political persuasion purely because of what you believe in. But that doesn't make you my enemy. No. But unfortunately, we have developed this culture of thinking that because he's in a different political party, therefore, he's my enemy. You know, I was in Parliament myself, and initially when I went into Parliament, I was UPND, opposition UPND. Eventually, I went into PF. But if you speak to members of the parties, opposite parties, I did not pick any enmity with anybody. I embraced everybody because for me, politics is service. And I'm a better politician if I sit with you and we exchange views. So tomorrow when we go to argue, I can say, I know his views and these are mine. But if I don't give you an opportunity to be heard, and I only want to be heard, and if you speak your views, I fight, then naturally, what will happen? I don't progress.
Absolutely. We'll be taking a break, shortly. When we come back, some calls and some texts. But before we do that, and when we come back, we'll talk about the priorities, going forward as PF. But before we do that, again, I've followed your career. Did great things as a minister. But one item that is always picked out is Bill 10, that was a failure. Do you subscribe to that dented your CV?
Depending on where you stand. For those who campaigned vigorously against Bill 10, yes, it dented my image. For those who understood the intention of government with Bill 10, they said that was a big success. And I'm sure, and I pray to God that I'm vindicated. And I can see the vindication already coming. What I did indicate, if you recall, Ambassador Frank, I did go to Parliament and I said, colleagues, there's no reason for you to look at Bill 10 in its entirety. Because Bill 10 consists of different articles. There are some articles that you may not like. Please argue your case. Present amendments. I'm willing to concede. When you give me a plausible explanation on why you want it to be amended, government will give in. But my colleagues in the opposition said nothing is going to be accepted. Right? Now, I think you've already heard that the current government is talking about revisiting the Constitution. Okay? And we've heard some people saying, yes, we must revisit the Bill of Rights. We must revisit the Constitution. And fortunately, these are the same people who are saying no to Bill 10. What is happening? I'm being vindicated already. I did indicate that I listened to the people. I listened to UPND. When members of UPND MPs were saying, let us refine our Constitution, I listened to them. So the ones who actually urged us to move on were UPND members of Parliament and society, because we asked members of society to come and give us their input. For example, we're hearing now that one of the provisions of Bill 10 is being highly topical. The retention of members of Parliament into councils.
Right.
And when I sit, I say, well, you lost the opportunity because that was one of the provisions of Bill 10. Had you listened, it would have been easier for you now to use your CDF. Because now they're saying there's a disconnect between the member of Parliament and the local authority, and yet the money that they're giving, 25.7 million, is to be used by the member of Parliament, and yet it will be managed by the councils. And I said to myself, I'm being vindicated already. And I should actually not even say me, because this wasn't a personal agenda. This was a government program. And Ambassador Frank, I can let you in on the fact that Cabinet sat no less than 10 times. We had no less than 10 meetings just to interrogate Bill 10. So whatever was contained in there was as a result of collective wisdom.
Right.
It wasn't me. I only happened to have been the one who was Minister of Justice, whose mandate it was to move such a bill. It wasn't the given LUBINDA bill. The given LUBINDA bills are the ones that I moved to try and enhance the fight against corruption, for which I almost lost my life. Those were my bills. But this was a government bill. And I have to say, I'm very proud to have been associated with it. I have no regrets whatsoever. I have no regrets. I am happy we did what we did, and it has taught the country a lesson, so that now those who are saying, please, President Hakainde, can we revisit the Constitution? They must find a better system than we used. They must find another way of having consensus than we did.
Right. Quickly before I take a break, since you have made reference to Minister of Justice, this brings me to the issue of State Counsel Sango, who has been arguing, against the methodology of, appointing a Chief Justice. We now have a new Chief Justice. I'm not so sure whether I've heard you comment on this. Very quickly do that before you go on break.
The appointment of a Chief Justice is enshrined in the law. It's very clear that the recommendation is made by the Judicial Service Commission to His Excellency. And the President is the one who presents the name to Parliament. I also heard the argument that this position must be advertised.
Advertised, yes.
That would be a very good idea.
I think they've done that in South Africa recently.
Yes,
yeah.
They do that in the United States.
Yeah.
But for you to do that, you must amend the law. You can't just do it, wake up tomorrow and say, let's do it. First, you have to go to Parliament, convince parliamentarians, they look at the merits and demerits of so doing, and once society through Parliament agrees, then you can introduce that. But for the time being, I think that President Hakainde is in his right to appoint whoever he chooses with the recommendation of the Judicial Service Commission. And the beauty also with this is that it is made public. I heard some people, actually parliamentarians, lamenting that you should not disclose the name of the candidate until after Parliament has debated. Then you'll be denying society its rightful role, because even judicial authority derives from the people.
Absolutely.
Parliamentary authority derives from the people. And this is why it is meritorious for the President to say, this is my nominee. So that people can start debating. And parliamentarians then will be told, people must not think that parliamentarians are omnipotent, that they have all this wisdom. Parliamentarians are driven by society. They listen to what the people are saying. So even when they were assessing the suitability of the appointment of Dr. Mumba Malila, they were listening to what the people were saying. But I have to say, I've known Chief Justice Mumba Malila over a long time. He may not be a member of my party, and I care less which party he belongs to. I've known him to be a highly conscientious person, a person who I relate to very, very well. Even when he was a judge and I was Minister of Justice, we related very well on a number of issues. There are some programs that I initiated at the Ministry of Justice which made me work closely with Justice Malila and the former Chief Justice, and I have to say that I have every confidence in Justice Malila. But unless there is insurmountable pressure on him from whatever quarter, and when I say this, I'm not meaning that this could only come from the ruling party, because it could also come from the opposition.
Absolutely.
If the opposition goes to him and says, this thief behind wigs and things like that, obviously that will persuade his decisions. And I'm hoping that no insurmountable pressure is mounted on him, because I know that he can execute the functions of Chief Justice to the satisfaction of the majority Zambians. This
is Frank On Camnet, on a new slot. We'll be coming every Tuesday from 17 hours to 8 and 30 hours. When we come back, you can phone in or text your contributions, and over and above that, when we come back, we'll look at the priorities, that Mr. LUBINDA, who is acting president of PF, would like to undertake or will undertake, especially in terms of moving PF forward. This is Frank On Camnet with my guest, Mr. Given LUBINDA, acting president of PF. Join us very shortly.
Tell your mother, Happy Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Christmas. To all our Camnet TV viewers, you have been a blessing. the Healing Word Ministries International, the church that my wife and I pastor. You are just phenomenal. May the Lord bless you in 2022.
For the Lord to allow us to enter into 2022 by His special grace, we can only say, Lord, we thank you for your mercies and grace. We've gone through a lot of things in 2021, but God has given us a fresh start, a brand new day. We are entering it with the right footing and putting God ahead of us, knowing that it's by His mercies and grace. We know that we cannot do it without Him. Personally, my husband and I, we cannot do anything without the Lord. We refuse to take Him for granted or think we are any more special than all of you people. May God bless you, Camnet TV viewers. You are just the best. God bless you, world. God bless you, Healing Word Ministries. We love you. And keep watching Camnet TV, because Camnet TV is not just another channel.
You were born
for greatness.
For greatness.
Are you a young talented football player? Unlock your international future potential of greatness in soccer. Zambia's greatest soccer talent that the world has been waiting for is about to be revealed. Join young and gifted football players through Camnet Soccer Academy. There will be trials and selection of potential players. Trials to be conducted on 8th January 2022. Camnet Soccer Academy is looking for 2 categories, namely under 16 and under 18. Don't miss this opportunity of a lifetime. Time 08 hours to 16 hours. Venue Kablonga Boys Secondary School. Parents, bring and support your children.
Hello, I'm Deborah Lukalu, all the way from South Africa. You are watching Camnet channel, not just another channel. God bless you. Stay tuned.
This is Frank on Camnet on our new slot, 17 to 18:30. And if you've got any submissions and in terms of takes or phones, please, this is the time to do that. Before we went on break, and I did allude to the fact that we'll be talking about the priorities, but just before we do that, people are wondering, why PF is very critical already of the performance of this government, barely 4 or 5 months. Should we be giving any government, a new government, a bit of time to settle down? You've already alluded to the fact that if UPND survives, beyond 2026, whatever, they will be it's like you've already written the epitaph for them that they're not going to go beyond this time. Basically, what I'm saying is, shouldn't we be applauding them when they do something good? For example, they have made a decision to pay retirees, to pay farmers, but the first thing that PF has said is, we're the one who budgeted for this, but they've implemented this. Could you just respond to that?
The very first public address we made after the 12th of August elections was a pledge to the Zambian people that the Patriotic Front will be a totally different opposition political party from the UPND, that we shall not be antagonistic, that we shall be supportive of government efforts. We shall do whatever is within our means to make sure that all those lofty promises on which President Hakainde was elected are delivered. That's what we said. And if you hear us criticizing, it is because we'd like them to deliver on their promises. For instance, they promised that they're going to give free education from nursery to tertiary. When President Hakainde went to address the first session of the 13th Parliament, what did he say? He twisted the words and said, I talked about providing access to quality education. It was no longer free education. It is our duty to remind him that, look, the people voted for you not because you said access to quality education. They voted for you on the basis of the promise of free education. So please deliver.
I'll be revisiting that. I understand we've got a caller. Good evening. Good evening. Hello. I think the line is bad. Do we have some, takes, that have come through? We'll be getting, all right. Why, Mr. Given Lubinda, you don't want to leave politics when few people are still clapping for you? Do you feel that it is not enough what you have done already for the nation? Can we go to another one if we have another text? Do we have another text? Please, let's have, more of those, takes, before you respond to that, just finish what you were saying.
Yes, so when you hear us criticizing it, is because we would like to make sure that the government performs. If all of us are going to be praise singers, then the result is that you're going to have a complacent government. So our role is to provide checks and balances so that delivery is achieved. When you speak, for instance, about our comment about pensions and the comment I made that actually you're using the 2021 budget, it was in response to what they have been saying. You may recall, Ambassador Frank, that they were telling everybody that whenever they fail to achieve something, they would say, it's not our budget. It is PF budget. That's why we didn't do this. And now when they were delivering the 255 million to pensioners, they did not also go to the extent of saying, oh, by the way, this is PF budget. So we're just reminding them that in the same way that you're saying you inherited empty coffers, can you also say that this 255 million that you're releasing to pensioners is actually in the budget of the PF? And also, we just wanted to make it clear because they made it sound as though this is the very first time that pensioners were being paid. You and I know that we inherited these pensioners. Somebody now put something on social media saying that I said we inherited pensioners from the MMD and we did not pay them, as though I was happy about it. I never said anything like that. What I said was that we inherited this. It was a historic issue. All these pensioners we're talking about were 22,000 pensioners, and they became pensioners because of the privatization in the 90s. And when we formed government in 2011, these people are already pensioners, and they were waiting to be paid. We managed to reduce the number from 22,000 to 2,000. At least some people must stand up and say, give credit to the PF for doing what they did. And I also was emphasizing that in the budget of 2021, we actually allocated money to go towards pensions. I also clarified that in the time that President Edgar Lungu was president, we paid the largest amount. 5.9 billion of the 6.2 was paid in the time that I was humbly Minister responsible for justice. There are people, you were saying them putting that picture of that woman who was cursing me or cursing Ministry of Justice officials, and I was clarifying that there are many instances when I actually went out there, even during the rain, I went outside to address pensioners because we're very empathetic. This is the reason I was making that comparison. And I also spoke about, for instance, today, it might be on news, I spoke about the issue of 324 million.
There's a caller. Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Your name, please?
Peter Kulu calling from Gombe.
Yes, sir, Peter. What is your contribution to my guest?
Yes, I am a youth, and then, there are certain things which I'm worried about. Is it that the only youth considered in this UPND government are the only nurses, those who did healthy and teaching? What about us who did economics? Where are we lying in the equation? And I'm very passionate that PF is going to come back. I was one of the people who supported PF. And I'm very happy that the way Honorable Given Lubinda is stating about we are encouraged. Probably, I'm still writing the same articles, analyzing same issues. Probably, there are certain people, if I say something, they criticize over nothing, or probably they don't even understand certain governance issues. I want you to be encouraging us, you, Mr. Honorable, that at least we can have a new hope. I don't see anything which is happening good if I can come back next year, people as you will be crying more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, for that, contribution. You can continue where you left off and then take on board the two
Yes.
questions that have come through.
Yeah. So I was saying today I addressed the press and I was talking about the 324 million that has been released
For the farmers.
No, for schools.
For schools, yes. Yeah.
To actualize the promise of free education. And I had to bring this out. They took away PTA and they said they'll replace it. Now, 324 million in a country where you have more than 1,000 secondary schools and more than 8,000 primary schools, leave alone special education schools, leave alone early childhood education centers, just the 9,000 primary and secondary schools, and you give them 324 million, and you say this is the first quarter allocation. That works to 30,000 kwacha a term, 10,000 kwacha a month per school. Surely, are you saying this is a reasonable replacement? If you take one school in the constituency that I represented, which I know very well, Kabwata constituency, take for instance Livala Secondary or Kamwala Secondary. There are 4,000 learners there. And they were charging every child 200 kwacha only. 200 kwacha only per term. For 4,000 children, it translated to 800,000 kwacha per term. Now we've denied the Kamwala Secondary School 800,000 kwacha and instead replaced it with 30,000 kwacha. Are you sure that the quality of education will still be maintained? Only a few days ago, the Minister of Education was on top of the moon celebrating the performance of children at grade 7 and grade 9. Who should get the credit? I'm sure that UPND want to put that in their feather in their hat. But is it them who produce those results? No. The ones who produce those results is the PF government. But they will not say, well done PF. They will say, it is us. When things are wrong, it is Edgar Lungu. When things are good, it is us. And this is where I'm calling the bluff and saying, please, friends, let us be honest with the Zambian people.
Is it realistic, Mr. Lubinda, that free education can be facilitated when you left a very, very challenging economic situation? As you chew on that, let me see if I can pick up the call. Good evening. Fine, thank you. Who's calling?
Pastor Jawa.
Sorry?
Pastor Jawa.
Yes, Pastor. What is your contribution to my guest?
I'm grateful that you have picked my call. I just wanted to make a small contribution.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Linda.
Good evening, Pastor.
Thank you very much. You are my cousin. I'm from Northwest, and I love you.
Thank you.
Your contribution, really encourages me.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to comment on the issue to do with the materials and the butane. Yeah, the butane issue. I think the thing is the butane had a lot of good, protection, things in there. And it was going to help the country very much there. But I think it was then pushed by a group of people who were too arrogant. It's the arrogance, I think, that made people, discarding things that are good that they were trying to do. Yeah, even the roads that we are being done, they were good, progressive infrastructure, but some people could not accept it because of the arrogance that was coming from the leaders. As a pastor, I really felt for you people. And even with a good man like him was also somehow taken away. Because he was just a human being was alone in there. He could not put things right. Even when he was seeing things going wrong, his voice was just too little to be heard. I think that's where the problem was. So basically, we are saying PS was not in line with the aspirations of a lot of people. And that's why I see, if the good things thing that we are trying to do, where I think it will be, appear, evil in the eyes of the people. Now, I can even see my cousin now. He's a good man today, and as the acting president of PF, I'm happy. And he's down to earth, and what he's doing right now, I think, is good. From there, Mr. LUBINDA, and good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very quickly respond to the issue I raised, whether free education is realistic. There also was a question of the UPND government, facilitating, new jobs in the Ministry of Health and Education. And then there was an issue of you overstaying in politics.
Yes.
Yeah.
You may recall that President Hakainde, when he went to open Parliament, he actually acknowledged the fact that this notion of free education was just abused, because he himself acknowledged that there was already free education at primary school.
Yeah.
Because the ones who are paying PTA fees are only secondary school. So he already acknowledged that the PF government had already started implementing the free education policy. And we were asking parents to pay the 200 kwacha only for PTA because of what you're talking about. The fiscus wasn't enough. The fiscal space wasn't enough. I mean, now they took away the 800,000 which Ivara Secondary School was collecting on a term, and they're replacing it with 30,000. So you can see that this free education notion, if it's pursued, is going to create a reduction in the quality of education for our children.
Right.
Now, the gentleman who said, isn't it time for you to leave while people are clapping? I did indicate that I was living active parliamentary politics for that very reason. I didn't want to go back to the people of Kabwata and say, I am the only one who can represent you, because I know there are many other well-versed, well-qualified people who can represent us in Kabwata. And that's how I paved the way. And the position that I have now is not a position that I campaigned for. Hadn't President Edgar Lungu appointed me vice president, I could have taken a back seat, probably only as member of the Central Committee, contributing in the quiet of the Central Committee. However, when President Lungu charged me this responsibility on behalf of the party, on behalf of Zambia, I surely didn't want to let go, because I still have a duty to my country. And I don't think that saving my country has a time limit. I shall serve my country to the best of my ability until the day the Lord takes me. And I'll save it in whatever portfolio. If I left politics, it doesn't mean that I would stop saving the country. I will still save my country in many other fields. So it's not just the politics, but for the time being, I still have this passion to use politics.
Creation of jobs, the teaching sector, in the health sector. You haven't commented on that, whether it's a good thing or not.
It is a very good thing to create employment, but it is a very bad thing to create employment based on borrowed money. This government told us they're going to use the 1.2 billion they borrowed, and they said it was from some well-wisher. 1.2 billion. They said, we'll use this money to employ teachers. As though their benefactor told them that they will be giving them the 1.2 billion every year. It was a one-time release. And you employ people who shall continue to receive salaries every year. What will happen next year? You'll have a big hole in your budget. And because of that, what will happen? You will borrow even more than Edgar Lungu borrowed. And actually, they've already borrowed more than we borrowed. And when we say things like this, it is not because we hate them, it is because we know how these policies will hurt the Zambian people. Another example I would like to cite is fuel. And I'm using the words of President Hakainde when he was opposition. He was giving his spreadsheet saying, I know how to solve the issue of fuel. In every liter that you're paying for at the pump station, the PF cartel is getting 3 kwacha. At that time, the price of fuel was 15 kwacha, 59 ingwe a liter. Now, he has increased the price. He told us in his manifesto he was going to reduce fuel costs to between 12 and 13 kwacha. Now he has increased the price to 21 kwacha. And indeed, if the PF cartel was stealing 3 kwacha when the price of fuel was 15 kwacha, 59 ingwe, which cartel is getting the 9 kwacha now? I'm using his words. Which cartel is getting the 9 kwacha? Because he has increased price of fuel from what he said, you'd sell it at 12 kwacha to 21 kwacha. There's a 9 kwacha leap.
Isn't the reason that the prices were uneconomical, because of the subsidies? Isn't removing subsidies going to create extra funding for social delivery? Because these subsidies really were just uneconomical. They were used for political expediency. Don't you agree with that?
Did President Hakainde say that in his campaign promises? No.
Well, we hear so many promises that are not realized for perhaps one reason. You find that it's a different ball game when you get into government.
Ambassador Frank, I'll remind you, President Frederick Titus Jacob Chiluba, when he was campaigning in 1990-91, you remember what he was saying? This economy is run down. We have to tighten our belts. Zambians, are you ready to suffer? And we said, yes. President Michael Chilufya Sata, when he came on the scene, what was he saying? I am going to chapa Lusaka. I am Jik. I shall chapa Lusaka. I shall remove all these street vendors. Right? Frederick Chiluba telling us tighten the belt, he won elections. President Michael Sata telling all those street vendors, I'll remove you from the street, he won elections. All right? These are men who stick to their words. These are men who go to campaign based on the truth, not on deceit. In this particular case, what were we told? I shall reduce the price of fuel from 15 to 12 kwacha. And then you come and increase the price without even apologizing. Because the least I expect is for somebody to stand up and say, please forgive me. I was talking from a position of ignorance. I did not understand how governance works. I thought that these people were stealing 3 kwacha. I've just come to realize that actually they were not stealing anything and they were subsidizing, but we cannot continue. Forgive me. I'm now going to have to remove the subsidy. And I'm sorry for calling these people thieves when they were not thieves. But to just go about it and make it appear as though you must win both ends of the argument is not fair.
Was it going to make any difference if President Hakainde had said realistic things that at play today? Why do I say this? There are a lot of people who say the last election was not really about whether UPND won or not. It was a referendum against PF. It was just all about removing PF.
I can bet my last dollar that had President Hakainde gone out to campaign on the basis of realism, saying, please don't criticize PF on the price of fuel because they are subsidizing it. Please don't criticize them on the $1 million or so $750,000 they're using per kilometer of road. They are doing the right thing. I don't think he would have won. He went around.
You don't think the sins that you had committed were so big that it was irrelevant what anybody could have said?
It was a complex issue. It was both.
Yeah.
And I subscribe to the idea that a lot of the people who voted were punishing the PF.
Right.
The pastor, for instance. And I'd like to say to the pastor, I am not the only one who is clean. I am also part and parcel of that team that brought the PF down. Yeah. I too should say I was arrogant. As Minister of Justice, yes, I was arrogant just like my colleagues. And we accept we did things wrong, and that's the reason why you punished us. Right. But there are also quite a number, especially a number of youths, who bought into these fantasies, who were told, if you vote for me at 10 o'clock, 12 hours I'm sworn in, 14 hours the dollar will be 5 kwacha. They bought into that.
Very interesting politics. I've only got about 5 minutes or so before the end of the show. Do we have any texts, my director? Good evening, Mr. LUBINDA. What things are you planning to do that you failed to do in 10 years in government? Today you are free. There's your days in power. You are not allowing opposition to be heard, and we don't want to go back to the old days where you're beating up cadres. Anything else? Acting PF President Honorable LUBINDA and the entire PF leaders you are the best. Come 2026, we're voting back in PF power. Anything else? Good evening, Honorable. Please take note of all this. You have to respond to that in the last 5 minutes. You are capable of becoming the president of PF, but I don't think they'll allow you to be on that seat. It's unfortunate you are aspiring for that seat when the party is finished. Bambuya, you were wise. Now the party itself is still tribal and violent mockery of Masaiti and Indola. Anything else? Honorable LUBINDA, what we see in Parliament now is a Cold War and not debate. MPs go there with the intent of attacking each other instead debating issues. Next one, that was from Katete. Right, could you remember all those?
Yes, I remember.
Excellent.
Them.
All right, and then when you're finished, we'll talk about quickly the priorities, what we want to do to the party.
Thank you for the kind words that have been expressed. What is it that we want to do, which we didn't do in the last 10 years? We want to come and use our experience. We did a lot of things in the last 10 years, and we've learned our lessons. So you can imagine, with the experience we have, and also with the fact that we've learned our bitter lessons, once we go back into government, we shall certainly be the best government Zambia has ever had. So there are many things that we didn't do in the last 10 years that we want to come and complete. And the list is endless. Secondly, you will not be allowed to run the PF. Like I said at the start of the program, I've not even expressed my intentions to be president of the Patriotic Front. For now, I'm preoccupied with working together with my colleagues to prepare the party to go into the conference. Only when we cross the bridge shall I make a decision. And honestly speaking, I am also pretty happy to cross the bridge with my colleagues and to say, guys, I'm not available. I'm pretty happy to do that. And that decision shall only be made when we cross the bridge. And the issue of the party being tribal and so on, I'm not too sure about that, because if you look at the composition of our Central Committee and all our structures, you'll see that we blend various people from different regions. And this idea also of tribe, I think, is something that we Zambians must start to interrogate very carefully. When you hear a name LUBINDA, you immediately assume this fellow is a Lozi from Kalago or Senanga. But I have children who carry the name LUBINDA, and yet they are from Kawambwa.
Absolutely.
So this issue of tribe must not be made a center thing. I think it's very trivial. Let's talk about the quality of people. And this is also why I would like to say to my colleague, my pastor, who said he loves me because I'm his cousin, he must love me because I am me. I'm a human being like him. Let's love each other beyond tribe. Let's love each other beyond family affiliation. Which was the other question that needs
the was the question that the environment now is changed.
Yes, the environment now is changed. That is what we want. That is progress. If indeed during our reign, if it's true that during our reign, opposition wouldn't sit on radio programs or TV programs, if it's true, if it is true, then it is good progress. Right. That now opposition can sit on TV.
Absolutely.
And you can imagine what will happen when PF forms government in 2026. Then I'm sure that we'll even be paying for opposition to go on TV. That is progress. Right. We should not hold back onto history and say, because you didn't allow us, you should also not be allowed. Then we're not progressing. President Hakainde, I want to reiterate, President Hakainde was elected by a lot of the youths because he said, when I'm given the opportunity, I'm going to show you what governance is. I will show you how to govern based on the rule of law. That's how all the youths from universities went in their gowns to go and vote. He promised them that he's going to give them jobs. And we want them to have these jobs. And if he doesn't provide the jobs, then obviously
I'm sure he is thinking of that, and he will do that hopefully down the line. Let's very quickly in the last 3-4 minutes, talk about what are you going to put in place at the Congress to ensure that you pick leaders, who are not dented, strong leaders, not just leaders. We're going to use the money there and ensure that they're elected leaders who are above board, who are going to challenge the UPND in 2026?
That is my preoccupation. That's the preoccupation of all of us in the Central Committee. To organize ourselves to go and have a true democratic conference. I don't think that we shall allow any particular individuals to bankroll the party for the sake of the conference. We have heard some people have said, we can raise the money, we'll have the money, we can come and give you the money. Obviously, if we fell into that trap, we'll be selling the party to the highest bidder. Now, for us to do that, first of all, we have to make sure that we do a membership audit. Yes, we are strong, but truth be told, Ambassador Frank, there are some weak souls in any society, and there are some people who may have jumped gun when we lost elections. Others may have been intimidated and cowed to leave the party. We have to first of all do a membership audit. We have started the process. We also agreed as Central Committee to expand our party structures from 24 to 72 for all the lower organs of the party, and to 80 from 54 at the Central Committee. This is an enormous task for us to perform, and we have to do this before we go to the conference. Once we've done this, then hopefully we can go and lead delegates who shall go and vote for a president who will win us the votes in 2026. One who shall also hold us together between the conference and the presidential elections in 2026. If we fumble with this, then I'm afraid we may end up with electing a person who may not deliver to the wishes of the Zambian
Could you
people.
clarify before we end whether you are reported correctly, that you were saying President Lungu is just taking a back seat? Could you clarify that statement?
President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, I think it was on the 19th or 20th, I can't remember, 19th or 20th of August, soon after handing over instruments of office to President Hakainde, wrote a letter to Secretary to Cabinet. And fortunately, he copied me in because by then he had already appointed me his vice president. In the letter, he indicated to Secretary to Cabinet that he was stepping down from active politics. However, he was going to remain with the title of president of the political party because the constitution of the party dictates that he hands over to the next person who will be elected at the conference. And in retrospect, just imagine the hue and cry that could have been in the party now had he said, I'm totally stepping down and now I'm handing over to the vice president. You can imagine what could have happened. Those who were even criticizing my appointment only as acting president would have said, no, Edgar Lungu has anointed Lubinda, and so on and so forth. These elections are not going to be free and fair. So in his wisdom, he followed the constitution and said, I am taking a back seat. So he's only holding on to this title because the constitution doesn't allow him to hand it just like that. And yes, ever since then, he has attended 1 or 2 meetings just to come and clarify to the Central Committee. For the time being, actually, he also wrote 2 other letters a few weeks ago because people were misunderstanding. He wrote 2 other letters, one to Honorable Nixon Chilangwa, Acting Secretary General, in which he said, all the functions bestowed on the office of president of the party, which are administrative in nature, shall be performed by him, Nixon Chilangwa. He also wrote another one to me in which he said, all the functions which are political in nature, which are bestowed in the office of the president, shall be performed by my humble self, and that he himself will not be available. And ever since then, we've had meetings and so on without even going back to him because the man has told us, please, I don't want to be involved in the running of the party. Go and run it. And I'm sure that the Central Committee is composed of men and women who are capable of running the party.
Are you sleeping well with this task that has been given to you?
It is an enormous task. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I start asking myself, how should I come about to reconstitute Lusaka Province Committee, for instance? What method should I use? Who should I consult? Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I start phoning people. I apologize for waking them up and I say, can you please advise? So this is not an easy task. This is not a task I'm carrying only for the PF. This is a task that I'm carrying for the many Zambians out there who want to see that their democracy flourishes. So I take this as an enormous responsibility. If I could, I would say, God, why don't you take this cup away from me? So that I can also enjoy myself as a farmer, enjoy myself playing music and doing what I love to do. But I have a responsibility to my country, and that responsibility supersedes my personal interest.
My final question, I keep on asking this question to my guests. If we left, like we're going to leave, this studio, we go outside and you meet Jesus outside, what issues would you raise with him? I'm asking you because I know you're a Christian. What issues would you raise with him?
I'll say to him, thank you for giving me the opportunity to do all the things that I've done in my life. And forgive me for all my shortcomings, because I'm ready to be with you in your kingdom.
Acting President of PF, Given LUBINDA, thank you for being the face on the new slot of Frank on Camnet. My beginning of my 52nd in a year. Another journey continues, and thank you for being part of my journey. God bless you. This is a mammoth task that you have taken on. I'm sure with your Christian background, all shall be well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me as your guest on the first program in 2022 on your 52nd year. And let me also seize this opportunity to say to the Chilubas, Pastor Chiluba and Madame Chiluba, these are people worth emulating. Theirs is a very inspiring story. I remember many years ago sitting in the church and Pastor and Madame Chiluba saying to me what dream they had, and here it is. If every Zambian can live their dream, what a beautiful country we'll have. But I can assure you that many, many Zambians are waking up to that realization. So thank you for having me, and again, God continue to bless you so that you can continue to do what you do well.
Most appreciated. My guest on Frank on Camnet, and remember, this is going to be our permanent slot, 17 to 18, 30. Thank you for watching. My guest has been the acting president of PF, Given LUBINDA. Thank you to you, the viewers. Thank you to my executive director, Pastor Chiluba and Mrs. Chiluba, and my production crew. Always do a great job. My final phrase, it hasn't changed, even the beginning of 2022. And it says, do your very best, and God will do the rest. Good night to you all.